Okay, class, in this brief tutorial, we're reviewing pattern, X, Y tables, rule, and graph. And you have to be able to go seamlessly from one to the other, all right? Whether it's from a graph to an X and Y table. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Here we have three things. We have our pattern, okay? That's the pattern, right? Here we have our X and Y table, and I've put it in a horizontal way or a vertical way. It makes no difference. It's the same thing. And over here we have our graph, and what I did not put, we will have our rule, okay? And you need to be able to fill all of these out when only given one thing, whether it's the rule, the graph, the table, or the pattern. So right now, all that we haven't given is the pattern. A couple things to remember. The figure numbers, figure 2, 3, and 4, always refer to the X, okay? So we have figure 2, okay, we have figure 2, we have figure 3, we have figure 4, all right? And we may need to draw figure 5. In this case, I'm going to have you sketch figure 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, or we don't even need to sketch it. So let's look first at these patterns, okay? We see how these patterns are growing. So if we look at figure 2, figure 2 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay, figure 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then it had a 1 up here. So what did we do? Figure 3 has basically 3 extra tiles, correct? So figure 2, if we count them, there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Figure 2 has 8. Figure 3 has 8, 9, 10, 11. Figure 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Figure 4 has 14. Okay? So we can see, oh yeah, this is growing by 3. So we know figure 1, since it's growing by 3, figure 1 is going to have 5. Figure 0 will be 5 minus 3, which is 2. And I think you all understand this part, all right? So there's our pattern, and here is the table. Now let's look at the graph, and this is what is really important. I want you to recall, maybe you recall this from middle school, but X is what we call the independent variable. Independent means it's not dependent on the other number. So X could be any number, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those numbers have an impact on what Y is. X impacts Y, if that makes sense. Figure 0 will have 2. Figure 1 will have 5. Figure 10 will have how many, right? I'm not sure. So the figure number is not what is being calculated. Okay? The figure number is static. What is being calculated is the number of tiles in the pattern. That is what is changing. Therefore, the actual number of tiles in each pattern is dependent. It is dependent on the figure number. Therefore, the vertical axis, which is Y, is always the dependent variable. It's always the information that's changed because of the independent variable. So we have independent, we have our numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay? This is our X's. We'll put it in gray. And now simply we just graph it. And this is something that you guys are doing pretty well, okay? But you just flip things around. X is 0, when X is 0, Y is 2. When X is 1, Y is 5. When X is 2, Y is 8, and so on. And now we have a nice line, and I don't have a ruler, but we have a nice line that's kind of going like this. Okay? If it crosses the y-axis at 2, and it is going up, 1, 2, 3, is going up 3 tiles for each position, if that makes sense. It's going up 3 tiles for each position. Okay? So we look at, now what is the rule, right? So you've gone from studying the pattern to the table and graphing it. What is the rule? Well, if we look at the rule is really, what is this growing by? Each of these is growing by adding 3. Okay? Therefore, the rule will have 3 in it. Okay? 3 times something, because it's growing by 3, therefore there are multiples of 3. Therefore, the rule will be 3 times. We can also see that the graph is growing by 3. For every one position, the number of tiles increase by 3. Therefore, it's a multiple of 3. Now we simply look at this. Okay, so if the rule is 3 times x, let's look at what happens. What is, if x is 0, what is 3? What is 3 times 0? Well, 3 times 0 is 0. So then how do we go from 0 to 2? We simply add 2. And we see that this rule is going to work for the other patterns as well. All right? If figure number 3 has 11, we're looking at this right now. All right? We can see with this rule, we have 3 times 3, which is 9, plus 2 is 11. It works. So we have our rule, which is right here. And in your test, the majority of you did this incorrectly. Okay, here's a rule. X plus 2. All right? Actually, if I really write it the way it's usually written, it would be y equals x plus 2. There is our rule. Okay? What is that saying? That means that y, here's y equals whatever x is plus 2. So let's just, that means y, again, y is dependent on what x is. Make sense? So let's just start plugging numbers. Let's say x is, again, I'm going to use 0 because 0 is easy. Let's say x is 0. Then x is 1, x is 2, x is 3, right? So if x is 0, what is 0 plus 2? Easy. 2. Now if x is 1, what is 1 plus 2? That's just 3. And so on. And we know they're getting increased by 1. All right? So we have our pattern here. We have our, sorry, not our pattern, we have our x and y table. All right? If I was going to graph that, we know that y is independent, y is dependent. Our x's are dependent, so independent. So here's our x is 0, y would be 2. When x is 1, y would be 3, and it grows by 1. Da, 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 da. Therefore, we have our line, and we have our pattern. So we have the graph. Here's a graph. We have the table. We have the rule. If I was going to show a pattern for this, I would start off with figure number. You can start off with figure number 0, figure number 1, and figure number 2. So figure number 0 has 2 tiles. Figure number 1 has 3. And figure number 2 has 4, so on. Got it? Okay, now I've been giving, the only information here we have is the graph. Right? I've put in points and I've put in a line. Now, you need to give me the rule, okay, which is, you have to give me the table, and then you need to show a pattern. Fair enough, pretty easy, right? So let's look at, remember y is dependent, x is independent. So when x is 0, y is 8. When x is 0, and now we use a vertical line. When x is 0, y is 8. When x is 1, y is 6. When x is 2, y is 4. And so on. What's happening here? This pattern is actually going down by 2. Right? Each time you go from one figure to a next figure, the pattern goes and drops down by 2. We are actually subtracting 2 every time we go down. Because we are subtracting 2, correct? Our rule will be, well, that's going to be going down by 2. Negative 2x. Now, because it's going down by 2, we know that it's going to be a multiple of negative 2. Therefore, we look at figure 0, right? When x is 0, what is y? Y is 8. If y is 8, then we can simply just throw in this. And we know that works. And we can double check it. We can do an idiot check right now. When x is 0, negative 2 times 0 plus 8 should be 8. And it works. Let's look at this one. 2 and 4. When x is 2, we should have 4. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 8 is going to be 4. It works. Our pattern, this rule works. Now, it's a simple thing of drawing it. So let's look at we have figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. So figure 1 has 8. Okay? 8 squares, 4, and 8. There's 8. Figure 2 has 6. Figure 3 has 2. Actually, did I make a mistake? I made a mistake. Look, do you see what my mistake is? Maybe you can guess it. Figure 0 has 8. Figure 1 has 6. Figure 2 has 4. And figure 3 has 2. They are going down by 2. All right? There I have mapped out what it means to go from a rule to a table to a graph to a pattern and going back and forth. To quickly review 2 problems from our test and why you guys got that wrong. Okay? There are 2 rules here that Jesus is saying this pattern here is 3x plus 2. Monique is saying no, it's x plus 2. So let's look at the information we have. We have figure 3, and then here we have a rule. Okay? Let's look at this. We say that if we're doing an x and y table, we say that let's look at figure 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now we know that this is x, we see x, and we know that y is on the top part. Well, when x is 0, y is 2. When x is 1, y is 3. Okay? When x is 2, y is 4. And when x is 3, there's nothing here, but we can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 squares. Okay? Therefore, what is our rule going to be? We know it cannot be this, because if I plug this rule into 3 times x plus 2, let's just try it out. What's 3 times 0? 3 times 0 is 0 plus 2. Well, that works. Okay? What is 3 times 1? 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 is 5. This does not work for there. Nor does it work when 3 is 2. So therefore, this rule, like again, 3 times 2 plus 2 is 6 plus 2, which is 8. However, here it is 4. So this rule does not work. Therefore, let's try it with when y is 1x plus 2. Okay, so if y is 1x plus 2, that means when 1 times 0 plus 2 would be 2. So that works. When y is 1, 1 times 1 is 1 plus 2, that should be 3, and that works. When y is 2, 1 times 2 plus 2, that's 4, and this works. So this is our rule. And that's how I did it. All right, I used the graph, I used the figure number with the pattern, and I created an x and y table. Started just filling in the information. Okay, and this final problem, number 4, you're given a tile pattern, you're given a table, you're given a rule, and you're given a graph. Okay? You have to show all 4 of those. But all we have right now, let's see what we got right now. Right now you have 3 and 7. And we have figure 5 with a pattern. The pattern has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the pattern has 5 tiles. Got it? And I think some of you realize that, oh yeah, you just simply, if figure 5 has 5, then figure 4 will have 6. And you realize it's going down by 1. If I drew it bigger, is it 1? And that's x, okay? We know that 5 has 5. We know that 3 has 7. So this would be 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So it's actually going down. As the figure number goes up, you're subtracting 1. If I was going to graph this with y being here, x being here, when x is 0, y is 10. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. X is 10. When figure number 1 has 9, figure number 2 has 8, figure number 3 has 7, and so on. Figure number 4 has something like that, 6. So we know the pattern is actually going like that. Okay? We know the rule then. The last part of this, the rule, is because it's going down by 1, we know the rule is going to have negative 1x. Now, we just look at, well, if that is part of the rule, how many tiles does figure 0 have? It has 10. And there you go. And that works. If you plug this rule into all those problems, it will work. Okay, so this is a review of going from pattern to rule to graph, x and y table. This is something that needs to be fluent, okay? We're going to look at this and we're going to review it in class, and you guys will retest it on it. And your results will be applied to the results in your last summative to increase your grade.